everyone. So today's video is about how to get into nursing school. So I'm going to answer all of that information in this video. So I get asked this question a lot: how do I get into nursing school and how do I make myself stand out in the application? So as you know, and you're probably aware if you're watching this video, nursing school is extremely competitive. I know, for example, my program had over 800 applicants for 50 spots, so that's a lot. So there's some things that we're going to go over in this video that can help your application stand out. So first thing is you need to identify the schools that you want to go to. So make a list. What are the top 5 schools that you would like to attend? I really think that in the application period, anywhere between 3 and 5 schools is great for applying, because then at least you're leaving your options open. If you get denied from your number 1 top choice, you still have the option to go to nursing school. However, something to take into account, for example, for me, I only applied to 1 school, and that was because I knew exactly what I wanted as far as price range and prereqs that were required and things like that. And for what is available in my area, there really was only 1 school I was interested in. So if that's you, you can definitely just apply to 1 school. However, if you want to increase your chances of becoming a nursing student, it would be smart to apply to at least 3 schools. So okay, so things you want to look for is, is this your first time attending college, or are you going in as an adult learner? What are the needs for each school? And this is something that I found challenging when I was applying, is that every school has different requirements, which can be very frustrating, right? Because you'd like to just get your application package together and just apply. Yes, that can be really, really challenging to identify, oh, this school, you need chemistry within the past 5 years, but this school has no timeline limit. I know a lot of high school students use the Common Application, which I think is a great resource. That's an online resource, and you pretty much put your essay in there, everything, all the information for applying goes into this Common Application, and then at the end of it, you link the schools that you want to apply to, and that makes things a lot easier. However, if that is not you, if you're not a high school student trying to get into nursing school and you either have started your college career or you're going back for a second time, you need to identify what program requirements are. So once you do that and you figure out what you need, that can kind of help you too to figure out schools. So like for me, 1 school in the area required chemistry within the past 5 years. However, I took my chemistry 7 years ago before I was applying. However, I had taken organic chemistry 5 years before, but that would not be accepted. I would have to retake chemistry if I went into that program, and that just wasn't an option for me. So that program was out. So you need to look at what is required for the program and does it fit your lifestyle. You shouldn't have to be retaking classes that you already took. That's just more money and time and effort. So, kind of weigh those pros and cons. Another thing is tuition. So you may have your top choice school because it is much cheaper than maybe your second or third choice school. However, I think you should apply to both just to see where you get in so you have the option. So something to take into account is there are various types of nursing school programs. So you have an associate's degree program. That's something that's going to be at a community college. You have a bachelor's program. This could be at state schools or private universities. And you also have an accelerated BSN, which can also be at state schools or private universities. So the biggest thing with all 3 of these programs is you come out a nurse, period. You are a nurse. Okay, so for example, I am an ADN nurse. I work right alongside BSN nurses. I was accepted into a doctorate program with only an associate's in nursing and a bachelor's in something else, and I start the same place as people who have a bachelor's degree in nursing. So there is a lot of similarities between the ADN and the BSN or accelerated BSN nurse. So my biggest advice, and I don't want to sway you one way or the other, but do not be discouraged from a program because it is only an associate's degree. If we're talking tuition-wise, the associate degree is by far the best bang for your buck. A BSN nurse and an ADN nurse, there is a very small pay difference. When I say small, it's under $1 usually. It's not a huge difference. Their roles in the hospital are the exact same. Yes, it is true that if you have a BSN, a lot of the top tier hospitals in big cities do require a BSN, and that's because they want to be what's called magnet status. And what this means is a certain percentage of their nurses have a BSN. So when they do take ADN nurses, those usually will be the nurses who have a lot of experience in the field and things like that. So if your dream is to be at the #1 hospital in the big city, yes, you probably are going to need a BSN. However, you can still get the ADN, work as a nurse, doing an ADN to BSN program, which is typically a year long. It's online, and it's something that your employer most likely will help pay for. So again, if we're talking best bang for your buck is to do the ADN, start working as a nurse, and then get the BSN. A lot of people look at timeline as being an issue, like, oh, I just want to get the BSN as quickly as possible, and that's where these accelerated BSNs do have more weight and are better choices for those types of students. So an accelerated BSN, depending on the school, if you go to a state school, it will probably be cheaper than a private institution. However, not nearly as cheap as a community college. So keep that in mind. However, I do know some nursing students who have decided to go the accelerated BSN route because, you know, they're like, I just want to have the BSN in 18 months. I want to be done with school, and I don't want this to be a 3-year thing to get a BSN, and that's understandable. So for them, the extra money is outweighed by time. So, you know, that is an option. So once you've identified the schools that you want to go to, print out what is required for admission and make sure that it fits your life and what you've done and what is available to you. So now that you have your list of schools, typically the criteria will be classes for all programs may vary. So look at those and you know, again, what fits you. But however, there will be an essay portion, and there will usually be a requirement of taking the TEAS exam. So let's go through those really quick. So I personally think that the essay portion is the most important thing on your application. This is because this is the thing that is going to make you stand out from all other applicants. This is really where you get to show your passion for nursing, and I think that it's super important that you show that, because the admission committee knows that nursing school is rough, and it is going to test you mentally and even physically because you may not be getting that much sleep. So they're looking for people who are ready to get down and dirty, if I can be honest. They're not just looking for someone that's like, oh, I have a perfect 4.0 and I got a 99% on my TEAS exam and I want to be a nurse. Like, that's not what they're looking for. Nursing is exhausting. Even when you're working as a nurse, I always joke that nursing school is so rough and testing because when you become a nurse, it's not what you think it's gonna be. And I have another video on this that I will link right above. Okay. So really, nursing school is preparing you for what you're gonna face when you become a nurse. And they're looking for people that are going to be flexible and are willing to grow and have a growth mindset and not a stagnant mindset. They're looking for people who are willing to sacrifice. Admission essay is where you can show all of that. So very, very important. Typically, admission essays, you're going to be asked things like, what was a challenging experience in your life? Why do you want to become a nurse? What sacrifices are you willing to make? Or how, I think I had one that was like about time management. How do you plan to manage your time in nursing school? So these are the types of questions. And so, for example, you know, you don't want to just say something like, I want to be a nurse to help people. Because honestly, most people's applications, that's what they're going to say in one form or another. You need to talk about an experience that was challenging for you. You need to show that you're a fighter, that you're willing to get down and dirty in nursing school. So the essay, I believe, is the most important part. Now, you might be a student who doesn't have a lot of hospital experience or medical experience, and you're just concerned that you can't show that in your essay or you can't show that in your application. And that's fine. There are some students that, yes, have never worked in a hospital or have not even had a previous job. I mean, if you're in high school and you're applying, you may have never worked in your life, and that's okay. So to make up for that, though, you need that strong essay. So certain things that I would include in an essay is talking about a challenging time and how you overcame it. And sometimes I've seen students that are like, oh, that was the most traumatic experience of my life, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, it's important to talk about that. It's important to show that you have been through things and that you've been able to overcome them and you've been able to grow and learn from them. And that's super important. So if you're kind of like about talking about maybe that experience with a family member who had cancer, or maybe it's your own experience, or maybe I did know somebody who was a veteran and had been in Afghanistan, and I was helping them with their college application. They were like, I don't want to talk about that. And I'm like, how could you not want to talk about that? That is such gold star on your resume. That's such a big thing. I mean, you've been through so much, you've experienced so much, and that's important for them to talk about. Like, you can't just talk about, I think people don't want to dig deep sometimes. They just want to skim the surface and be like, I want to be a nurse because I want to help people and I care about people, and I want to give back and I want to go to work and feel like I'm doing something positive. And like, that is all great, but you need to show the experience or the thing in your life that influenced you in that way. And it can be something small. It can be like, if you really don't have anything, it can be something that's like, you went to the doctor and your blood work was off once, and obviously this needs to be true, but I'm just giving an example. And your blood work was off once and you went home and you were so scared, like, am I going to be sick? I don't know. Or maybe like this is a family member or whatever. But then everything ended up being fine. But you can talk about that experience of when you didn't know what was going on. Or maybe just that experience of you went in the hospital and you had something simple. You had an EKG and you had a nurse that took care of you, and she was so kind and really made you feel comfortable when you were in a nervous place. And, things like that. Okay, I'm going on a tangent here. Okay, so after the essay, the next thing is you may or may not have a letter of recommendation requirement. Now, I actually think letters of recommendation are a good thing. Some nursing school applications don't require them, and that really stinks because this is like another place where you can show the type of person that you are from somebody else's point of view. So if the application doesn't require them, then don't worry about it. But if they do require them, don't be nervous. Like, I need a letter of recommendation. I don't know who to ask. This can realistically, besides a family member or a friend, could be anyone. This could be somebody that maybe you volunteered at a camp with, or maybe it's a past employer. I mean, it could even be your manager at a coffee shop. It doesn't matter. There's not a family member or a friend. And when I say friend, that's like your best girlfriend. Like, no, you can't have them write you a recommendation letter unless you worked with them and then they could write it from a colleague standpoint. Somebody who is above you in rank, no matter where you are. So if you worked at a coffee shop, it would look a little bit better to get a manager's letter of recommendation versus a colleague. However, you can get a colleague, though, if that is all you have access to. But it's just another tool to make your application shine. Okay, so after that, you're going to have to take the TEAS exam. And if you've watched some of my videos, you know all about the TEAS exam. I have like a million videos on it. So if you are taking the TEAS exam, you don't need to stress about getting 100% or a 99%. you want to do well. There are requirements for every school about the percentage per section that you need just to apply. So be aware for each program what this minimum is, because if you don't score this minimum, they will just take your application and throw it in the trash. You cannot get in. However, I have noticed that these minimums are usually 65% or 55%, or I think the highest maybe like 72. So they're not, you don't need a 95% on every section to apply. However, if you do well on the T's, that will definitely make your application shine, because it's showing that you have that base knowledge that you need to be a nurse. You know, you need to be able to write, you need to be able to read and comprehend things, you need to be able to calculate math equations, to give medications, and you need to understand science as far as anatomy and physiology and atoms and chemistry. You need to understand these things, because realistically at the foundation of medicine is science. So if you do well, that is great. However, if you don't do well, if you score high enough to apply but it's still low, say you get like a 64 and the application requirement is a 62, do not be discouraged. There are people who I've talked to who have not done well on the T's, have done high enough to apply, and they did get into nursing school. They did beat out those 800 or 750 applicants for the 50 spots. So the T's is not the end-all be-all of your application. If you have a strong essay, if you have strong letters of recommendation, you know, it is fine. And it is fine to have not the highest ATIT score. And this is also the same for GPA. So if you're a student who is going back to school or just coming out of high school, or your second degree student, and your previous degree GPA is not the best, like maybe you don't have a 3.8 or a 4.0, maybe you only have like a 2.1 or a 2.7, like maybe you do not have a good GPA, that is okay. But you need to shine in all other areas of your application. You need to have a good essay. If you have a low GPA, I would recommend trying to score high on the T's, because that will just show like, yes, my GPA is not the best, but I do understand all the basic things that I need to know for nursing school. That is the video of how to apply to nursing school. I hope you guys can see that you don't need to be perfect in every area. And, you know, keep your options open, apply to a couple different schools, weigh out the pros and cons on the costs, study hard for the T's, try to do well, but if you don't let it discourage you. You just need to score high enough that you can apply. And your number one most important thing is have a strong essay. Strong essay, most important. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please make sure to subscribe to my channel down below. We'll have lots of nursing content coming to you weekly. So hope you guys enjoyed. Have a good day. Bye.